Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I couldn't take that any longer. He's been singing that all week. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2D arcade game is a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up what was originally released on the arcade then ported later on to the NES. That's the one that I'm showing here. You can play as Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael and Donatello. It was nice to be able to play as all four turtles. Even though I felt that it didn't matter what turtle you picked to play as, where they all felt exactly the same, except for me, mainly I play as Donnie. For the story, a building's on fire, April's inside, and you go rescue her, and then Shredder kidnaps her, and then you go rescue her again, and then it's Splinter's turn after that. And after when you rescue the rat, you go after the Shred dude. Pretty simple. Well, that's what I think what the story's about. This is basically go from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, defeating waves of enemies until you get to the boss fight. This was more of a game that I was thinking the Turtles game should be like, not like that other one. Well, thank fuck that this one puts that one to shame. If you're after a bit of a challenging game, this won't disappoint. It can be a hard game until you get the pattern down, but even then it can be tricky to keep it up and it does make you swear at times. Especially when you can't keep spamming the attack button. If you do, you will take damage. Oh, this has to be the most hardest boss in the whole game. You got the standard attack and you got the heavy attack. The heavy attack will take a bit of time to get used to, where you have to use the B and A button together in the right timing. And I found myself favouring that attack the most, where it only took one hit to kill the standard foot soldier. However, I found that it didn't always register the heavy attack input. It's more like every 2 out of 10 it did not register for some reason, and then you got the drop kick, what I mainly used on the boss fight. And now and again when I pressed the button to jump, it didn't always do it, yet this happens rarely. I think that happened to me like 3 times throughout 2 playthroughs. The hit detection is quite good most of the time, but I did encounter a couple of hiccups when I hit the enemy and it didn't take, and you can take damage from this. I like that there's different colour foot soldiers with different attack styles. Some will jump on screen and others will throw knives, while the yellow foot soldiers throw boomerangs. It added variety to the enemies, and some reason when you defeat an enemy they explode. I don't know why, but I like it. Bosses are inventive and they take a lot of hits, and it's fun to see Bebop and Rocksteady again and the others from the 80s to 90s cartoon TV show, and finding that pattern to defeating the boss. Yet once when I found the pattern of defeating the bosses, all the other bosses had similar patterns, and this is where it gets a bit tedious. Nevertheless, it is a challenging pattern to keep up without getting hit. Games multiplayer is where it shines the most, where I felt like this was the way it was meant to be played. You've got just the right amount of enemies to fight and the 4 turtles to pick from. And it just flows more better, where one can draw the boss's fire while the other one can attack, and this is where the game starts getting addictive. There is a bit of glitching from time to time when there's a lot going on. Some things do go invisible, and this did piss me off. When the enemy throws something like a ninja star and I couldn't see it because it went invisible, and then I'll get hit by it. It's like, oh, and my character's across the screen again. The level design is simple, go from left to right and seeing all the product placement of Pizza Hut, and now I want a fucking pizza. I like that the levels all have their own theme, and my favourite level must be the city one where it had the gigantic TV in the background. I think the reason why I favoured this because I don't know about you, but back in the 90s I had a 15-inch TV? Not even that, maybe 10. Some of the levels do go on way too long, and it gets a bit tiresome facing the same enemies over and over and over again with waves of them. I found that I had to pause and take a bit of a break of the game every 3 or so levels because of this. I was surprised that there were cutscenes in this, and I actually enjoyed watching these for how little they were. It's that little touch that they've done with these cutscenes that made it stick out at the time. The graphics are above average for the NES, and I was surprised to see that the flames moving across the floor on the first level, the turtles actually look like the cartoons, especially Bebop and Rocksteady. The soundtrack is pretty good, and you can easily sing along to it if you remember the old Turtle song. Fuck! For how long the game is, I've clocked on around about an hour and a half, except this game is meant to be played multiple times. Although when I beat it, I don't see myself going back to it anytime soon unless I've got another player. So in the end, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's above average game, what I would recommend for the NES. And I could see it getting that 7, however for me, it just missed it. So have you played it? What do you think of it? Leave it in the comments below. Until the next game, you guessed it, I'm fucking off. So I've entered in an extra life code.